Hello folks, and welcome to another edition of Artist Talk for New Hope Art Gallery. Today we are very lucky. We have a very talented young lady named Rosemarie Manson. Say hi, Rosemarie. She's quiet. That's her hi. We'll get her to talk, folks, don't worry. We are going to talk about her art and some of her process and maybe a little bit of her history. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, Rosemarie?
Fine, yeah. I was born with a crayon in my hand, so throughout my life I have been drawing and painting. My formal lessons were at Rhode Island College. I was an art minor. At the time there was no major for art education, so...
Really? What year was that, do you mind saying?
1963 I graduated from Rhode Island
Okay, we'll go with the late 90s. Okay.
Okay. So I was an art minor, and throughout my career as a public school teacher in Providence, Rhode Island, I had art in my classroom every single day. We always had art going on. When my own children were in middle and high school, I decided to take more lessons. So I did Learning Connection, RISD, Continuing Ed, etc. And then when I retired in 1995, I was looking for more formal lessons. So I go to East Side Art Center on Rochambeau Avenue in Providence.
Oh, great.
So it's a wonderful experience. I started to show at Rhode Island Watercolor Society.
Is that how, did you start with the watercolors strictly, or was that something you sort of worked your way into?
No, I started with watercolor because I had never used watercolor before, so I wanted to try something new. So my first day in school, at Eastside Art Center, I had a blank piece of paper, a brush, border, and paint. It took me an hour to put anything on the paper because I didn't know what to do. And here I am, 55, 56 years old, and I had no clue what to do with it. So my art teacher said, just do it. I just
start painting.
Did it. I started painting.
Good.
And then I progressed to acrylics. I don't want to do any oils. I don't want to deal with that mess. So I do watercolor and acrylics mostly, and I do oil pastels, not the soft pastels. They're too very complicated to work with.
Oil pastels, how are they different from the regular? They're a little bit harder, kind of to.
Well, first of all, they don't smudge. They're very thick, so when you apply them, it's almost like an impasto. And you can actually work watercolor with the oil pastel, but of course the watercolor comes first.
And then the oil pastel goes on top.
Right.
Oil always goes last.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. But
cool.
It's a good accent. I like to use it as accent.
And obviously you have to let the watercolors probably dry first.
Yeah. but you know, I've also used pan pastels.
Yeah.
Which are very different than stick pastels.
Okay.
So I use that.
Yeah. Good. All right, well, let me come around a little bit so I can get a better look. We want to get some close-ups of your work as you're talking about them. Okay. And I'll try to get there. We have no reflection from the glass.
Good. In this show, I have brought some of my realistic things. So, but I always have a twist. So this is one of the flowers in my garden, but if you notice, I have applied a texture.
Actually, we were looking at the other one, but that's okay.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. Yeah, so I was focusing down a little bit. Okay.
So that's a flower from my garden, but I did not make it. I made it realistic in the sense that you know it's an iris, but if you look at the background, it's textured, which is not in nature. But so I always take realism and give it a little twist.
Good. That's nice. Miss some originality.
Right.
And now this is the pastel again, did you say? No, this is a watercolor.
All acrylic.
All acrylic. Okay.
Yep.
Good. Very nice.
And the one below is a collage of teacups. I went through a teacup phase because my niece passed away and she loved tea. So I was into teacups and tea. And so I make my own stencils. So these are stencils that I have.
And you collage them on?
And I collage them on. Yep, I stencil.
What do you just make the stencil out of a particular kind of paper?
Yes, I use UPO, which is a painting surface, but it's a polypropylene, which means that the water does not get absorbed into the surface. So it's very thick, so you can cut things out and reuse it over and over and over again. It's a very interesting
I love
surface.
collage. I'll have to try working with some of that.
Yep, so it's kind of interesting.
Nice.
Like
All
that.
right, well, let's go this. Why don't you shift around and I'll follow you. I'll go around this way and we can start talking about some of your other pieces that you have on the table. This is okay. Well, I'll let you describe them. These pieces are also in the current show.
Right, and these are all done on UPO, and if you look closely, you'll see that the water has pooled rather than fading into the paper. This was my take on the tunnels at Waterfire. So you're not seeing You're not seeing the fire, you're seeing the tunnels.
Those interesting tunnels underneath.
Yes, and I call this one beneath, because you never know what you might find in a tunnel. You might even see some figures walking.
Especially floating around in that water.
Yeah.
I think really? I was down there recently kayaking, and they are so interesting to look because I was kind of gazing into the tunnels. Very creepy down there.
Again, this is realism with a twist.
Yeah, good.
I made it more semi-abstract. This is an example of how you can take UPO paper, wash it off, and use it again. If you look at the background, the pale colors, that means that I took this UPO paper and washed it off and left the color stain on it. And then I painted the building on top. I used gouache, which is heavier than watercolor. And so this was a scene from a town in France that we had visited. And most of this is pretty accurate, except I didn't do the cathedral in the background, etc., etc. But if you look at the wonderful textures you can gain with UPO by printing with different materials. So now
is the UPO is the entire, you've painted on part of the UPO?
No,
it's one piece?
the whole thing is UPO.
Okay.
Yep. But gouache sticks to it better than, a little bit better than watercolor.
Okay. Nice.
Right?
Really nice.
And this one was done on regular paper. And I was just fooling around. I made some trees. I said, oh, they look pretty boring. So I had just bought a new system called Molotov fluorescent markers. So I accentuated one side of each of the trees.
With those,
and I called it Sunset Glow.
That's interesting. I'm going to have to start hanging out with you more. You have like really interesting stuff I've never heard of these things you're talking about.
Okay.
Now, where would you get something? Was that like an art special?
Blick. Used to be called, what?
Jerry's.
No, not Jerry's, the other one. I forgot the other one's name. Down in Wickenden.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know what you're
Utrecht.
Yeah, Utrecht. Okay.
Yeah, but now it's called Blick.
Okay.
And they sell these Molotov fluorescent markers, and they're acrylic.
Okay.
So
and that interesting.
Yeah,
so all right, let's come down here.
Now,
we have some.
Yeah, I see people and everything. As I told you before, up here in the tunnel, I said there are people here. I see people everywhere. I could look at the floor and look at a tile and see people. And I have taken pictures of floor tile and then painted a picture to match the floor tile. Now on this one, this was done on UPO as well. And I just put down some paint. And I don't know what I was doing. That's my process. The paint tells me what it wants to be. I don't start out with this idea.
Okay.
The paint just flows. And I said, oh my God, that looks like a brain and a brain stem. So, and I looked inside and I said, oh my God, I see people. And I saw people and animals, and I accentuated them with more paint or a pencil or whatnot.
So do you sort of just glob it on and move it around? Some of you just let it sit for a while and make its own pattern.
You can do both. I let it flow around and then let it sit and say, oh, now what do I see in here? So I let the paint tell me what it wants to be. And I call this one Mindful. So here are two ladies. These are this is their brain, or this lady's brain, And they're thinking of all the people and animals in their life. So I call it being mindful.
Nice.
And the same thing happens with this one. I was fooling around on Yupo with acrylics and letting it flow. And then I said, oh, it looks like a tree. No, it's really a man with a tree on his brain. So I just accentuated 2 little eyes, and I call this man one with nature.
Very interesting.
And again, the same process on Yupo, let the paint flow, print some interesting patterns on it, and look and say, oh my God, there's an imprint of a woman there. And that little...
She looks very snotty.
Yeah, she's very snotty, but she's being kissed by a woodpecker.
Oh, a woodpecker.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can see.
I can. So I call this a little peck on the cheek.
Yeah.
And they appear. I don't plan it that way.
You don't plan. You wait and see what comes.
I wait and see what the paint is going to do for me.
And now, yeah, I like the red on the cheeks. And now, what would be the blue coming down with the red under her chin?
It was all...
No, but I mean, what does that represent to you when you're...
Nothing. I don't have any.
You don't have any now. It just sort of feels like it belongs there.
Yeah.
I do a lot of that. Yeah, that feels like that color should be there, so that's what I go with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so now these are newer pieces, and so this is sort of transitioning into your new work that you've been doing now, and which I'm bugging her to go bigger, 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 because we have a lot of space a lot of big spaces in our new gallery. So.
Now this is a collage. I had the background was just sitting there with these black lines, and I had these faces, and I said, oh, they belong with this. So I cut out the faces, and the colors seem to go together. So I said, oh well, they'll go together just fine. If you look at these green, that's a stencil I made, and I turned it upside down. I turned it right side up.
And that's for your face, the faces, the noses.
Right.
Okay. And so now, what do you attach what do you attach it with?
Golden matte medium gel.
Okay.
And then when this is completely done, I will probably either spray it or
so
put another layer.
So this is still in process. And what do you do? A finishing, like, what kind of a sealer do you, because you tend to... I mean, I usually use like an acrylic sealer because I work in acrylics.
Right. This is an acrylic, again, golden matte gel acrylic medium.
Okay, so it is an acrylic sealer you use.
Yep.
Do you ever use, when you do like another medium, do you seal those as well? Do you try to...
Not always.
Not always, no.
It depends on, what I'm doing. Now these, I'm transitioning into using the gallery wrap, mainly for economic reasons. It costs so much to have things framed. But this, I did not paint this on here. This surface is really rice paper.
Mm-hmm.
And I use a tool called a jelly plate. And if you go to Jelly Arts, GELLIARTS.com, you will see it in action. It's a gelatinous surface that you apply paint to, then get your paper and print it. It's like a monotype without a press.
Okay.
So this, I, again, use the gel matte medium to adhere it to this surface here.
Oh, okay.
So I was able to
So it's
move
something
it around.
separate so it's not painted right on the canvas.
Correct.
Yeah, you would never be able to, you could never tell that.
No. And this one is in progress. This was a Bienfang paper. It's very thick. It's thicker than Yupo, but it works well, but it has a grain to it. And I had painted some rice paper with the jelly plate.
Mm-hmm.
I said, oh, let me just print it on here. So I just printed it on that paper.
Good. Well,
and that's in progress.
That's it.
Yep.
Great. Well, thank you for joining us. We're going to, sure we'll see a lot more interesting large pieces from you. I hope so. Larger pieces. And we look forward to showing you again. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. And thanks a lot, Rosemarie Marie, for
Yes.
being our guest. Thank you.
Thank you.